Hello all and welcome back to the Star Trek Critic, where each episode is analyzed as if it was a school project. The episode for today is Mudd's Women, which according to the stardate takes place not long after the second pilot, and quite a long time before the man trap. This episode dances around two very dark subjects, human trafficking and drug addiction. Of course, like many TV shows of the 60s, the dark side had to be watered down quite a bit. The first point is lost since there is no clear explanation of why they are pursuing Mudd's ship in the first place. Are they patrolling? Did someone report foul play? Did he run a red light? They just don't really explain it. His ship looks like an aluminum banana. Lieutenant Uhura is wearing a gold uniform this time, and she has hoop earrings. Is that authorized with a Starfleet uniform? This is almost a reason, but the Enterprise is low on power as well. Is it their job to pull over spaceships without a license plate? The Schiller rating for asteroid belts is a Trek invention. Mudd is actually a bad pilot. He goes into the asteroid belt to evade the Enterprise, then his engines overheat, and now he's at risk of getting hit by the asteroids. The Enterprise blows a circuit trying to protect Mudd's ship. They still don't know who's on the ship. Still more proof Mudd sucks as a pilot. He refuses to answer their hails all these times. His evasion plan gets his ship destroyed. Then he sends out a distress signal. All he had to do was respond the first time with some made-up story and the Enterprise would have left him alone. Now this is proof he's a crook. The captain of the ship left first with little concern of the safety of his cargo. Now the lithium crystals are completely gone and the Enterprise is on battery power, so they have to drop their deflector and Mudd loses his ship. I'm not completely convinced that protecting Mudd's ship is what burned out their lithium crystals. I think they were having problems before that. And here are Mudd's women. He looks a little smug there, doesn't he? He's not even on the right side of the transporter panel. They should have moved him away from there. These three women are now on board the ship and having a strange hypnotic effect on the men. The Venus drug they're taking might be pushing out pheromones that have that hypnotic effect on them, similar to the way the Ryan women have on the men in Star Trek Enterprise. And I will have to take 1 point for this incorrect shot of McCoy in his tunic in sickbay. Even the camera crew was stunned by the women. Everybody has to stop in the hallway to watch them go by, even this guy hanging from the ladder. They board Turbo Lift 7, looks just like 1 through 6. Mudd calls Spock part Vulcanian. How would he know he's part Vulcanian? Spock resembles full Vulcans, so -1 point. Eve mentions buying and selling people. Mudd says he will speak for her, which is a red flag. Spock makes an amused, sarcastic introduction of Harry Mudd. He might be a little affected by the pheromones too. Kirk loses a point for meeting Mudd in his quarters instead of in an office. And once the big announcement is made, he knows he's got a big problem, which causes him to lose another point for giving an earlier star date on his next captain's log. Kirk noticed something is up with this magnetic attraction. That's a total crock. I'm sure his ship sensors could have figured that one out. Spock is playing with computer tapes like their deck of cards. I might have to take a point for that one. Farrell is really affected by the women. Scotty points out to Spock that this is a problem. Of course, Spock is using logic and thinks he's talking about the other problem. And here Harry Mudd is coaching them on what to say and what not to say. This is all his fault anyways, because he doesn't know how to fly a ship. The crew doesn't have very nice things to say about Harry Mudd, that's for sure. How many planets are there in the Rigel system? They use the name a lot. Or is it several star systems in one area called Rigel? They never really explain. -1 point for not interviewing them individually like they are supposed to. This is the first show with a talking computer, and the first thing it does is call Mudd out in front of everyone. I do have to take 1 point for Mudd's police record card. In the photo, he's wearing the same outfit he's wearing in this office. The information is also very vague. And what is a future police record code? Kirk tells Harry the charges against him. We never really find out what happened to Leo Walsh. And the computer has no data on the women at all. And now the computer calls out all the other men in the room. Star Trek computers always tend to have a sense of humor. Either that or the computer just tells it like it is. Harry tells them of his destination and his new job. Kirk asks if the women came voluntarily. Harry immediately answers for them. And that's always a red flag. Evie is very outspoken and admits she wants to go, but look out, Evie. Your description of taking care of your brothers might be the same as your future husband. Harry really doesn't like it when she talks. Kirk states the charge. There is only one, since they couldn't get him on anything else. Harry's defense doesn't impress the crew at all. How does Kirk know her last name? The computer had no data on them, so -1 point. Harry has a plan now that he knows how much trouble the ship is in, and tries to sell his plan to the girls on selling the girls to the miners. He forgets that 2 security guards are still in the room, and since they forget to notify Kirk of his plan, -1 point. This is the first of several references to Evie and Kirk, but this one is out of the blue, like there is a deleted scene somewhere. Ruthie makes her move on Dr. McCoy. Poor Connors, he just gets kicked out for no reason. There is no real explanation as to why the scanner starts beeping, except for the scene to be funny, so -1 point. Now Evie tries to make her move on Kirk. Probably either Harry or her brothers taught her how to break into his quarters. Kirk's not having it, and Evie doesn't really want to scam him either, but she still doesn't tell Kirk about what Harry is up to. I'm not convinced the miners are that desperate to deal with Harry Mudd. They are rich, and with their money they've had plenty of opportunities to pay for, hourly girlfriends or housekeepers, in that sort. Harry is simply trying to drop off the girls and run away with the money, and the miners surely have done business with his type before. Farrell is really mesmerized by the women. He should take some leave time on Wrigley's Pleasure Planet to get that out of his system. Kirk and McCoy consider that maybe there's more going on than the women just being pretty, and it might be some type of illusion. The ladies managed to evade a medical exam, so he couldn't spot out the Venus drug. I will have to take 1 point here, either for Lieutenant Uhura not noticing a radio call on a stolen communicator, or for the fact that they are still pretty far out of range. Now the closed captioning here says Rigel 22, but since this was added 30 years later, I can't take a point for that. One more point has to be taken here. The Enterprise should be able to stay in orbit for years, not just a few days. That was added simply to create drama. This is one of those rare times when they mention beaming when the ship is directly overhead. She knows what's happening. This is proof the Venus drug is addictive. The changes they are going through on the outside represent how they are feeling on the inside. Another reference to Eve and Kirk. I think the next time Trek covers drug addiction is the episode Symbiosis in the Next Generation. Spock says they are beautiful. I say you really shouldn't hold them in your hands because they might be radioactive. Of course, the other ship did get destroyed. I will have to take 1 more point for continuity, since they need lithium crystals in this show and not dilithium, which is used throughout all the Trek universe. If all they needed was lithium, I would have sold them my computer battery. Another point lost, since this conversation would have never taken place. The miners would never risk a Starfleet contract over a deal with a slave trader. They would have simply sold the crystals to Kirk, bought the girls from Harry Mudd under the table, who would then be able to afford a good shady attorney. And unless Ben is the one pressing the charges against Harry Mudd, he can't drop them. Unfortunately, Kirk is on the losing end right now. I believe this means I would like to meet the ladies. Harry Mudd currently has the upper hand in this negotiation. Now the girls don't seem too concerned, but Harry Mudd is just unloading them here instead of their original destination, Ophiuchus 3. That's another red flag. There is something wrong with their travel arrangements. Isn't Kirk getting the crystals for free at this point? Crystals in exchange for Mudd's women? Here is a Star Trek bar brawl. Eve runs out, but they stop Kirk from going after her because they say it's too dangerous, which gives her that little headway so he can't find her. This is a nice photo of her feet. -1 more point for going back to the Enterprise to start the scanners instead of just calling Lieutenant Uhura. He's got 400 people on the ship. Any one of them could have turned the scanner on. -1 point for having Harry Mudd on the bridge. He's still under arrest for illegal piloting. He should be in his quarters. Kirk is admitting he struck out at the club. These 2 pieces of information should make it really easy to find them. Maybe they should set the scanner to check out his house, because there they are. It took them almost 8 hours to figure that one out, and lose 1 point for not using the metric system. I'm also not convinced the miners would have their houses 11 miles away from each other. This is also what Snow White did. A perfect match. In just 4 hours they start bickering like they have been married for 20 years. And she wins. All cards in the future are round. Here Childress is just rude about her looks. She looks great after being sandblasted for 11 miles. And his comment implies that he's done business with Mud's type before. Wouldn't it be called the Mars drug if it's for men? Childress is pretty pissed at Mud right now. Eve calls him out again on what he really wants, and now we learn the real truth. This is called perfect timing, but Eve is really too classy to make any comments. Kirk gives a little speech that the Venus drug is worthless. They make a cute couple. There must be a deleted scene somewhere involving Eve and Kirk, because they never really clicked. Kirk and Mud practice their stand-up routine. This still turned out really good. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy share their views of the trip, and McCoy points out where Spock's heart is. Mud's Women is a TV show with the main purpose of providing entertainment, but covers a very dark, touchy subject that has been around for thousands of years, and that is human trafficking. And like the episode itself, it's hard to see those red flags. But this is a worldwide issue, and if you see those red flags that Roger C. Carmel excellently portrays, and if something looks suspicious, feel free to give someone a call to check up on it. And if you are watching this from a country that isn't doing so well, and someone like Harry Mudd makes you an offer to the promised land that sounds just a little bit too good to be true, it probably is, and you are highly likely to end up in one of these bad situations. This is a not to be missed episode and gets a muddy score of 83%. Unfortunately, Roger C. Carmel suffered heart failure at an early age, and Karen Steele had a losing battle with cancer. And that is all for today. Thanks for viewing. Please leave your thoughts and comments below. What really happened to Leo Walsh? Did he ever even exist? Did Kirk and Eve have a more intense relationship than what was shown? Will Farrell ever meet a girl? Check out my other videos and playlists. Click that share, like, and subscribe button, and I will see you again soon.